Hey friends, it's Sarah Rittendale. When I decided to act against all the toxic thoughts and feelings I was living with daily and try to become my best self, I quickly fell into the very common trap of perfectionism. So, I decided to create a space where wellness doesn't mean being flawless. Becoming the best version of yourself doesn't just come from conversations about managing your mean mind, learning confidence, and always doing the things that you're supposed to do. Here, we talk about how normal your toxic feelings and thoughts are, that you're not doing something wrong because you don't always feel, think, or act how you envision your best self to, how to implement self-improvement strategies in a realistic way, and we do this through a variety of topics that often prompt our best selves to crave emergence. My mission? Inspire you to recognize that you don't have to be perfect to consider yourself whole, healthy, and well. This is the Well-ish podcast. Hello, my friends. Long time no talk, just the two of us. Super excited to hang out, you and I. I love this for us. I thought you and I should hang out. You know, we obviously haven't hung out in a very long time, not just through the interviews that we've had recently, but also because I didn't do Well-ish for a while. I had to take a couple months off because your girl was getting a little nutso. She was getting a little haywire in the brain. So I figured I could share a personal progress update with you guys just to show that self-improvement isn't perfect. You know, obviously the whole theme of why we're all gathered here together today. And I thought, you know, I obviously, like I said, I haven't talked to you guys in a while about it. So I wanted to tell you where I'm at, you know, maybe connect a little bit, a little me and you connection for mental health, self-improvement, check-in, see where we're at, see where I'm coming from, see where my mind is and what makes me talk to you about the things I talk to you guys about and have the interviews with the people I have on and all of the things. So I thought we would do a little my own personal progress update, fill you guys in on what's been going on inside my brain. I'm going to tell you guys about the things that I do well because, you know, I got to hype myself up a little bit. But I'm also going to share some of my struggles and challenges that I'm currently facing in the last, week, 2 weeks, because that's just how up and around and about and down and whatever mental health is that it just like changes all the fucking time. I feel like it always really surrounds like a few core root areas, and like tackling that root seems to be what really helps. But, you know, things are always shifting, always changing. So I wanted to share with you what I'm struggling with as well. So you've got, you know, some tips and stuff to look forward to from the things that I feel like I've really been putting together and understanding more and figuring out for myself. But also, oh my God, do you hear these cars driving past as if we're not having a conversation? That's really rude. Should I close the window? Probably. But we're also going to talk about challenges and struggles and that good stuff because, you know, again, we got to relate here. We got to know that it's not all dandy all of the time, and your girl is far from dandy all of the time. Right now, I would say I'm in a good place. And again, that's right now. That doesn't mean that's how I am all of the time. That's a lot of the time when I record the show that, you know, I'm obviously probably in a good mental space. Sometimes I'm not. That's true too. But it's obviously not always like this either. A week ago, I was like in bed 100% of the week. 2 weeks ago now. I think I talked about that on last week's episode. And just, you know, it's just how it goes sometimes. Sometimes you need to reset and rest and vibe it out and trust that you're always going to, you know, come back to this place that you're into growth and wanting to improve yourself or just wanting to be yourself. It's not always about improving yourself. My head right now looks a lot like ease, calm, just going with the flow, doing my thing. I do have some surges of like hyperness and feeling like I've got to get stuff done. Like it's that feeling of feeling like I'm forgetting to do something, but I can't remember what it is, but there's nothing to do. It's just that I don't have, it's that toxic productivity we were talking about last week, that like, yeah, having this like surge to do something because I should be doing something, but I don't have anything to do and I don't need to be doing anything. I'm already doing enough and doing right by me and keeping keeping to schedule and all of this stuff, but I'm getting ahead of myself. My point is just that I'm in a good place, but I definitely am dealing with a couple brain demons going on inside my head. So I'll talk to you guys about those things too. Really, honestly, I'm just like out here trying to tell you guys that it's all authenticity here. You know, I'm not going to hide anything. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. And I'm not going to sit here and preach to you guys about all things health and wellness and pretend like I'm also not struggling in health and wellness. You know, I hate that. I hate that about the internet, just all of these highlight reels. And that's all we ever see anymore is just people doing good and them giving you advice and it being like this, oh, I gotta get like that. Oh, I want to be like them. And it's like nobody wants to be like anybody because we're all fucking struggling. So we're just struggling in our own unique ways. So I by no means am out here trying to say that like I've got everything together. So we're going to talk about both. But let's get into it. I mean, that's it. I think I should start by telling you guys really about my wins because I think honestly, surprisingly, when I was like sat down and I was thinking about them, I feel like I have more wins than losses right now. So, you know what? I'm not going to push it, which like normally and like even still today in my brain when I was trying to like think of what to tell you guys, because it really does feel like, you know, the world is crashing in on itself when you are in those mental spirals. I'm closing the window. These cars are irritating me. Okay, what was I saying? I was saying just that like when you're in that spiral mode, like when everything is bad, it seems like everything is bad and so there's nothing good. And so it seems when I go back and I reflect that I should have a lot more bad things to talk about just because my mind feels so overwhelmed and full when I do have those bad moments. But I actually don't. Like when I go back and reflect on it, I actually don't have that much wrong. So, you know, there's that. Like if you want to write a list or whatever, even say it out loud to yourself, there might not be as many catastrophic, horrible things eating you alive and ruining your life as maybe your brain is telling you that there are. But I did still think that, you know, that, so that's something to highlight too, that my brain is still doing that. And that's a problem in itself. I literally had the thought the other day that like, I was like, do I need medical attention? Do I need medicine? Like, do I need fucking help? Because like, there was just like a shit ton of stuff happening inside of my brain that I was like, this can't be normal. This cannot be normal that people's brains just like work this way. Like, can I just operate like a normal human being and be good with that? Thank you. I'd really appreciate it. So I was like, maybe I fucking need to go to a goddamn doctor to live my life like a normal fucking person. But you know what? We're just living. We're just living out here, you know, and it's fine. We're going to get through it. So good things. Let's start with the wins. I would say my first big win that I have really realized is really sound and really like coming to fruition in all areas of my life. The first one I would really say that I have noticed a lot more recently, and I've been able to become more familiar with this in, you know, recent time. I've been better at it than when I first started, for sure. But what I've noticed is my relationship with gratitude has greatly improved. And I think that it's interesting the way that I automatically notice things that I'm grateful for now with having practiced consciously remembering to think of things that I'm grateful for as I cruise through my life. The thing that really sticks out to me specifically, I was at a restaurant the other day and these people were just being fucking obnoxious and loud, but they were laughing and they were yelling and they were talking to each other. And, you know, typically my cynical fucking irritated ass was like, oh my God, shut the fuck up. I'm always like, shut the fuck up. I'm like, do you remember when there was like etiquette? Remember when there was like the 20s and there was etiquette in a fucking restaurant and people weren't animals in the corner? You remember that? Well, like, what kind of Karen ass bitch do I sound like sounding like that? And how grateful am I that there is laughter? Can you imagine a world that there was no laughter? What if a fucking bomb hit the United States and we were all miserable and in war and nobody was happy and there was no laughter? How about that? So, and my brain just automatically did it. My brain was out in public, and before I got the irritated voice in my head that I said that I normally would get before, my brain automatically went to that. Like, it's almost like this subtle reframing that, like, I knew that it was like something irritated me. And so instead of like going straight to the irritation and the negative talk, I went straight into why it was a good thing. Now, honestly, no credit to like self-improvement on that one. That's just straight up because I'm reading Throne of Glass and I'm on the last book and it's like full war breakout. They don't laugh, things aren't good and happy and lovely. And so like because I'm reading this book, I've got like full reference to that. So that's why I thought it. But still, I mean, it's just like I feel like gratitude has really come up a lot for me recently. And so just building the habit of remembering to do that. And again, that didn't start for me like super easy. It was something that I heard talked about. I heard people like have your gratitude jar. That's an Oprah thing. You should write 5 things that you're grateful for at the end of every night. So then you can start seeing life in gratitude compared to lack, which is super good advice. But I'm saying is that like, it's a process to get there. So if you're at a space right now that you're hearing me say gratitude and you're like, oh my fucking God, how many times is somebody gonna fucking tell me that I got to be grateful or think of gratitude, whatever, you'll get there. Like, don't just keep thinking about it. Just keep having that in your brain somewhere, even if it shows up once a month. Just having that in your brain, it will eventually, the more you practice it, it will progress and you will be able to just like pick up things that you're grateful for as you go through life. And it feels actually really good and really normal and really natural. So it was cool. That was a really good win for me. So my other win is noticing my thoughts without judgment and then letting them go. So this came to me the other night because I was spiraling anxiety. So, still, like I said, we're not perfect all of the time. I'm not some anxious free little swan that glides through life. I literally have all of this anxiety in my brain sometimes not at all. And I will go a long period of time with just being peaceful. But other times, yeah, it's a shitstorm up there. So the other night was one of those shitstorms. I was fully anxious and I was being anxious about literally all the most random fucking shit. Like I was thinking about like the way that my organs work inside my body and that if they just decided to stop working that I would die. And I was thinking about the meaning of life and how people can always just die and you don't know what's coming next and you have to appreciate every moment. And am I taking all of these moments for granted? And then I thought of Wellish and I thought of, God, who even like you little stupid piece of shit. Like it was a whole brain spiral. You know what I mean? It's a whole thing. So every single time one of those random fucking thoughts came up in my mind, I was able to consciously tell myself, hey, you're not in the right mindset for this right now. We're going to let it go and trust that if it's important, it will come back to you. And it literally changed it worked. Like it changed my whole perspective. And allowing that trusting that when I'm in a more mentally clear space, if this comes back, I will work it out. Because a lot of the time when I'm in that anxious mentality, not only am I spiraling and ruminating on the thing because I thought of it, that's something very common, but a common thing for me to do is to hyperfixate on that thing and try to solve the problem. And I'm relentless until I solve it. I'm sitting there, my shoulders are at my ears, my forehead's all clenched up, my jaw is tight, and I'm like mad Googling or writing shit in my notes or trying to solve whatever problem it is that I've just randomly thought up because I have to solve it right in that moment that I thought of it, compared to saying, okay, I'll handle that later. I trust that I will handle that later and move on. And, sometimes you think of things that I do want to handle later, but not all of the time. A lot of the time, that stuff you don't have to handle it. It's just my scared, random, anxious thoughts that are popping up into my head. So having the conscious awareness to say, my brain is clearly in a tizzy right now. I'm clearly in an anxiety spiral. So it's not capable of coming up with logical, good, sound solutions, answers, and, just talking through with you about this. So I can let this go and trust that trust that when I'm in my clear state of mind that it will come back and I'll be able to solve it in a much better way than I would right now. Right now, I'm going to just focus on relaxing. Right now, I'm just going to read my book. I'm just going to watch TV. I'm just going to talk with a friend. I'm just going to do something to distract me from my overworking mind or something to soothe my overworking mind. Maybe it would be good to like go exercise or something like that to try to, fix kind kind of what's going on so that I'm not spiraling anymore. But when those thoughts come up that make me want to, end it all, I literally am like, okay, we got to just let that go. We're going to let her go, and we're going to let it come back when I'm sober. And a lot of the time, the craziest part of this is they don't come back. Like, I don't think of them again. And before, that used to terrify me because I used to think, well, I got to write down everything. I have to remember everything. Otherwise, I'm going to fuck up my life. But let's be honest, like those random fucking thoughts that come through and don't come back, it's because they're not important. It's because you don't need to fix it. And if it's important, I trust that it will come back. Another thing I think I've been really good at lately is regulating my emotions. And that is only because I had my emotions severely fucked with when my mom's cat passed away this week. She passed away the day before Thanksgiving. She was also my cat in a weird way. So she was a cat that I had brought home from my freshman year of college. And then when I went back to school, I was living somewhere that I couldn't have the cat. So she stayed at home. And honestly, she bonded with my mom's other cat, Willie, that we have growing up. And so, they had their little moment going on. So I didn't want to, tear her away from her house, obviously. So she passed away on Thursday, completely sudden, completely unexpected. And it was very devastating, honestly, for us. And so I was fully over my knees, gasping for air, sobbing, that kind of upset. Okay. So I was feeling that for really heavy for the first 2 days. And then after that, I do think of her, a few times a day. It's gotten less and less as it's gone on, that it's as painful when I think of her. But, I would have that surge of pain. And so I would need some sort of relief from that pain. So I had my first initial grieving, sad, distraught reaction, okay, which is valid and normal to have. So when I continue to think of her, every single moment that I was being overwhelmed by these thoughts of sadness and grief, that it happened the way it happened. Sorry, I'm working and my boss just texted me. Okay, so every time that came up, that I had these intense emotions, this intense sadness after my initial reaction, I was able to have this realization, this understanding. I was able to have this conscious thought in my head, which is something that never would have happened before when I was experiencing high emotions, that I am choosing to have this emotion. I am choosing to be sad. I can be sad. I can be at a neutral level. I can have sadness in my heart. But to have this spiked surge of emotion is what isn't necessary. Because reminder that all emotions are temporary. Happiness, embarrassment, anger, sadness, they're these spikes of emotion, and you always come down to neutral territory. So in my neutral contentness, I'm allowed to be sad for the loss of my friend. I'm allowed to be sad at that, okay? But it's these high surges of getting into your head and having that sadness and repeat living this over and over again that you don't have to do. That at that point you are choosing to be upset. You're choosing to make yourself sad. So when that comes up, saying, I'm going to let that go. And that's okay to let that go. At first, I felt bad about it, specifically for my situation. And I know that, there's obviously other things that this might be relevant and this might not be relevant. But for my specific situation where there was a death, I felt bad about it. I felt guilty about it because I felt like I was doing wrong by Cindy, the cat, to tell myself not to be sad about it or whatever, that I was choosing to be sad. And of course I'm sad and all of these things. But obviously we know that Cindy, she's not aware of it or, whatever. It doesn't affect her in any way, dead or alive. It doesn't affect her, my intense emotions. The only person that it's affecting is me. And I don't want to feel that way. I want to be sad. I want to miss her. I want to be grateful for the moments I had with her. See, there's that gratitude again. But I don't have to live in this state of struggle. I don't have to make myself suffer in order to count as being sad. I can just be sad and not suffer from those intense emotions. So I think that was a really cool emotional regulation curve that I've turned. What's that saying? that I've turned. What am I trying to say? A leaf. It's an emotional regulation leaf that I have turned. Okay. Love that. My other win is resilience, and that comes from that same place, the same death of my friend idea that I used to know resilience as how quickly can I get back up after I've been torn down, after something has happened to me, how quick can I snap back after that's happened. But now I understand resilience to actually mean how can I move forward? How can I tack on what's happened into who I am, into how I handle things, and move forward with that knowledge? Because you're never going to go back. You're never going to go back to the way that it was before the thing happened in your life. You're only going to be able to move forward from that. So how is that going to happen? And I think that with Cindy passing away, that really resonated with me because I felt that before I was just trying to constantly maintain the sense of like normalcy, but you're always going to be adapting and changing, and your perspective's going to change because things are going to happen in your life. That's what makes you who you are. We all know that. So of course, resiliency is learning how to move forward compared to going back to the way things were before they happened. That's not going to happen. I think that too a lot with the podcast, like what happened that I burnt out so badly that I couldn't do it for a couple months there. You know what I mean? So making sure that I'm being mindful and taking breaks and not overwhelming myself with all of this expectation when it's just something for fun. Like I just like talking to you guys for fun. It's not that serious. We all relate. We all get along. We all agree on these things. And so let's talk about it. It's not anything more than that. I don't have this pressure to have like the world's greatest podcast. Maybe, that would be so cool if one day that happened. Sure. But like, that's not where we're at. So let's not focus on that. We're going to move forward. We're going to take the fact that I had that break and not beat myself up about it and say that I'm a piece of shit for having done it. But I'm just going to say, okay, that's obviously something that happened. Why did that happen to me? Let's do a self-inventory and let's move forward from that thing happening. My last win I'm going to share, and then I promise I'll get into like the shitty things about me because I know that's what we all think is fun to listen to. But my schedule and my routine, I've finally decided to bite the bullet and accept that I just am not going to get through a productive day free willy-nilly on my own. I need structure of some sort. I need checks to cross off. If I don't have that structure, like I said, I just like slack off and I don't do anything I'm supposed to. And then collectively over time, I'm like, wow, I actually hate my life and my days drag and everything sucks. And maybe I should get a new job and maybe I should change my life, maybe whatever, you know what I mean? Like when really the call is coming from inside the house and I need to just be able to maintain a routine, maintain a schedule that makes me feel good and that aligns with my goals. So I've been doing really well at that. And it allows me to maintain discipline. When I try to maintain discipline, just again, like free will, knocking it out by the seat of my pants, I can't do it. I can't have the motivation to make that happen for me. It literally just doesn't exist. But discipline is a little bit more achievable when I have attainable, sustainable, realistic things that I'd like to achieve in a day. And I put them at specific times and all this stuff. And then once I do them, I cross them out. And again, I'm not talking about anything crazy. I'm talking about, walking or standing on my walking pad for the morning and making sure I eat lunch at 12:30 and doing a meditation after I eat my lunch. And then maybe I do a power walk in the afternoon at 3:00. And then at 4:30, I go get a snack. And at 6:30, I eat dinner. At 7:30, I work out. At 8:00, I have a little relax time. At 9:15 or 9:00, 10:00, whatever, I start prepping for bed and I do my face routine, all of that, it's not that intense. It's things that I should definitely just be able to do on my own, but I can't do it. When I don't have the schedule, I don't do it. So I'm accepting that. And I'm also accepting that, I want my life to look a certain way and it's not going to happen unless I make that happen. Life by design. So I create my schedule of what I want my life to look like that aligns with my goals to get me to where I want to be. And I follow the schedule. And, I'm not going to do it perfect every single day. I did make myself a little tracker so that I can see over time how much I do well and stuff. But I've never done 100% yet. And that's okay. Nobody's asking for 100%, but I'm doing most of the things. And I feel like I'm doing a lot. I feel like I'm doing much more. I feel like my days are going by really like quickly and not in a bad way, like in a good way. That I'm like, taking care of myself myself and feeding myself and exercising and drinking my water. I don't do that ever. Anybody that knows me knows I'm the most dehydrated bitch. I'm drinking water all the time. Look, I have my water right now. Like it is full, but you know what? That's because I just refilled it. Okay, is the ice melted? So maybe I didn't just refill it. I refilled it a little while ago, but I'm drinking it. Okay, it's my third one for the day. My goal is 6 of them. So my point is that when I actually have the schedule laid out for me, it actually gets done compared to like me hating my life because I don't do the things that I want to do. And so collectively over time, I don't live the life that I want to live. I love the schedule. It really has helped me a lot. Okay, let's get into what we've all been waiting for, the things that I fuck up. The things that I struggle with. Okay, the first big one that I've been struggling with a lot lately is decision making. I say lately, it's been something I've struggled with literally my entire life. I cannot make a decision to save my life. I always have to like turn to other people and ask for advice, and then I go with whatever decision they made. As my mommy would tell you, she makes my decisions for me, or she won't make my decisions for me. But that's just what I love. Like I love being able to listen to other people, but I also don't love it because then I say to myself in my head, like, what do you want? What decision do you want? And honestly, if I'm going to like really get a little woo and deep into it, I think a lot of it has to do with my people pleasing, that like I grew up this people pleaser and I did all of these people pleasing and conforming and fitting into whatever the norm was so that I would be liked and normal and I would fit in, like I said, and I didn't have my own genuine personality. And so I think that I struggle with decision making for that reason. But lately it's just been so like as in that I struggle with decision making for that reason, period. But lately, my decision making has really been surrounding my wedding, and I'm struggling with decision making and fear of regret. That I'm just like really afraid that I'm going to make the wrong decision and I'm going to regret it and I'm going to be pissed about it and I'm going to look back on it and I'm going to be like, what the fuck did I do? And even once I make the decisions, I still feel that way. Like I chose my venue and I think, it's in a neighborhood. What if people think that's weird? What if it sucks? The venue, we have to be out by 11. Music and bar are done by 10. I have an after hour place for after that because I think, obviously I want to continue if people want to continue. But I'm like, is that lame? Is that boring? Did I make the wrong decision? And then I see like posts and movies and TV of people in their wedding dresses. And I think like, did I fuck up? Did I make the wrong choice in my wedding dress? What if I, by the time July rolls around, what if I'm into something else entirely? Because that's how my brain works. I jump from idea to idea constantly and I'm always changing my mind on what I like and what I don't like. And so what if this isn't something that I want to do anymore? But I'm trying to be timeless with my wedding. So that's one piece of it. So hopefully that doesn't happen. But also, it is what it is. You make the decision and you have to move on from it. But I'm struggling with that right now personally, just because I feel like, I don't know, like it's like this existential, like my whole life is going to fall apart if I don't, it's not even that serious. It's just, again, that like simple regret. Like I don't want to feel like, I should have chose something different. I'm terrified of choosing something different. And I think it comes from like, again, that lack of self-trust, like that lack of being able to trust that I can make good decisions for myself and I do what's best for me right in that moment. And that's all I can do. And if I change my mind in the future, if my perspective develops in the future, because inevitably it will, then I trust that I'll be able to handle it at that point in time. I can't go back and change things that I've already made decisions on and I've already paid for, like the venue and the dress. But, for like existential things like the husband, let's say, for example, not that I question that, but just because I know that that's thoughts that some people have. Am I choosing the right partner? Blah, blah, blah. Like, if that happens, like you're making the choices with the knowledge that you have at this given time. And if in the future they fuck you over or they turn into somebody that you didn't think that they would be, you'll be able to handle that and make that decision moving forward and be able to protect yourself and do what's best for yourself then, just like you're doing now. So that's the lesson that I'm like learning from the lack of decision making. But the struggle in itself, I have to continue to remind myself that, and I can feel myself getting like really overwhelmed and start to feel like really not overwhelmed. I just said that. Start to feel really lonely because I feel like, all of these decisions are on me and I have to make these calls and I don't know how to make these decisions. I've never been faced and the thing with the wedding too is like having to stand up for those decisions too. Like I have to make the decisions and stand up for the decisions. And when I make the decisions and people all show up to the wedding, I have to show people my decisions. It's very like a vulnerable thing. And so it's just a little terrifying to like make that decision. Like if you think about like just relating this back to anybody that, you know, isn't going through a wedding currently, but just real life, like making the decision to say even something as fucking simple as, hey, do you want to go get sushi with me? You've made that decision that like you want to go get sushi, and you made the decision that you want to ask that person to go get sushi. But it can feel scary to ask somebody to hang out and go do something that you've decided, because you're exposing yourself for your own decisions, what you like, what you don't like, who you want to hang out with, who you don't. You know what I mean? Like, and it sounds mentally ill, and maybe that's because it is, but that's where my brain goes. So it's a brave almost thing to make decisions, and you're learning who you are. And I think that's like a big piece of this, is that the decision making really comes down to learning who you are as a person. So it makes it a little bit more fun, and it makes it maybe a little easier to make those decisions. I'm going to try that this next time that I feel like that, which I'm sure I will here soon, because I've got to pick a goddamn DJ. But you know, it is what it is. And I'll just remember, like, who am I? What do I want? What do I like? What do I like to be around? And that's all that really matters, unless it's hurting somebody else, which obviously a DJ is not going to hurt anybody else. Hopefully that'd be fucking wild. But you know what I mean? You know, you just got to do your best with what you're given at those given moments, and you're always going to change from moment to moment. And then the other thing that I feel like I've been struggling with a lot lately is just living in my head, not nearly as much at all as I was at the beginning of my mental health journey, but I do find myself lately struggling with living inside my head. So I want to tell you what it looked like before I was not aware that I was living in my head, before I was doing all of this thinking about the life that I wanted and who I wanted to be and what I wanted to become and all of the things I was going to do and what I was going to do to get there. And I had all of this dialogue happening in my head in order to get to this point, or what I thought would get me to that point. And the truth is, I wasn't doing anything. Like, I had convinced myself that I was taking actionable steps to get me there because I was thinking about it so much in my head, but I had never done anything in the physical world in order to get there. Like, maybe I did, like, I made a fucking Instagram post or something, like, you know, stuff that's like stupid, but not like I wasn't taking any real actionable steps that I felt proud of. So I was living inside of my head. But that's what it used to look like. Now I'm aware. I'm aware of the times that I live in my head, and I'm aware that I need to do things in the physical world in order to make life happen. So I do definitely do that more than I do the things in my head. And my inner voice has quieted a ton since I started incorporating more of like this wellish mentality. However, when I do have these feelings, or when I am spending time with the voices in my head, you know, sometimes it happens more than others. And right now it seems to be happening a little bit more frequently, which I'm not sure why. Maybe I need to do like my own inventory and figure out what the fuck is happening up there. But like, to the point that my fiance told me the other day that when I'm having like, he can tell when I'm having a conversation inside of my brain, which is like, when he said it to me, I was literally like so embarrassed, because that, like, I know people think that. I know people that I spend time with know when I'm not listening to them, because I'm fully having a separate conversation in my own mind, or I'm having a conversation with somebody else entirely inside of my mind. And it's like, I think that I am being like discreet because it's in my head. I think they don't know, but I'm fully like in this like space out mode. If you're with me on YouTube, you can see my psycho face. Or like, I start like picking my eyelash really bad. That's my weird thing that I do. I'm sure I've told you guys that in the past. It's called trichophobia. You pull out your hair, you bite your nails. In my case, I pick my eyelashes, and I do it whenever I feel anxiety, because it's almost like this like space out kind of moment. Like, my brain turns off and it's just like flatlining. So a lot of the time it's not just quiet flatlining. It's flatlining, not working because I'm either hyper having some conversation in my head, or I'm thinking too in depth on something, or I've done that so much that it does flatline and I do think nothing because my brain almost goes into like a shutdown mode that she's like, you gotta relax, sister. So I've been struggling with that a little bit more recently, and I'm trying to pull myself out of it and learn that just means, that I'm, maybe worried about things that I shouldn't be, that are just like a little, I got to work it out a little bit better. I don't know, maybe I should go back to therapy. Maybe, that could play a factor into it too, because I stopped going to therapy, which that's just a money thing. That's not anything else. And it's also a stubbornness thing because I could get it through my insurance now for $40 a session, but it's just, it's work to do that. And it's 100% something that you should do. But again, here's me showing the imperfectness of that. My brain says, I know therapy works. I love therapy. I would encourage every single person on this planet to be in therapy. But here I am saying the same things that most people say. I mean, look, I'm getting redder as we talk about this, not because I'm upset about this conversation, but because I closed the window and I'm sweating. So I'm trying to not use my air conditioning down here in Florida in the winter because, like I said, money, so maybe if I'm not going to use my AC, I should use it for therapy. There we go. But yeah, so struggling with like living in my head. And I think something else that causes an issue for me is that I've been having a lot of problems recently losing my train of thought, or just not knowing what the fuck I was saying to somebody. It's just like completely gone. I can't remember. And I'm like, why is my brain fried? I literally have actually no idea. So I'm trying to figure it out, and I'm thinking like, do I smoke too much weed? Like, what's the problem? I don't really get it. And maybe that's a little bit of part of it, but I also think that it's my brain. I'm so inside my head. There's so much shit going on inside of there that I just can't get a clear, logical, intelligent sentence out. I forget everything that I say. I forget the stories that I'm telling, all of these things that I'm like, hold on, I forgot what I was gonna say. That was like my major statement, because I can't get out of my head. There's so much going on. I can't keep track of it all. So, I'm struggling with that. I don't really know what to say about that one. The decision one, I had a little bit more insight on. This one, I don't. I'm struggling with it. And I'm just going to, be nice to myself and know that that's happening, and continue to use my reflection tools that I had talked about winning in the beginning with, that saying like, okay, I can't, clearly my brain can't handle this right now. I'm okay with coming back to it. I trust that it'll come back when I'm clear-headed if it's important. And that really genuinely truly works. I also did the 5 things I smell, 5 things I see, 5 things I taste, 5 things. So for each sense, you pick 5 things around you to bring you back into the physical, and know that, you're in the physical, and you live where your feet are, and everything is okay here. So that's if it's like kind of getting out of control. A lot of what I'm talking about right now, though, is just like regular, everyday, like obnoxious thoughts, the overwhelming amount of thoughts that aren't necessarily bad. It's just that like there's so many of them that it's overwhelming, and that's what's bad. So just trying to have the practice. I've been trying to meditate every day. I think I mentioned that earlier, to try to like remember how to come to a calm mind and just live with a calm mind, because it's so much nicer to do that. I will say though, one thing that I will warn you against, because I struggle with this, is that when my mind is calm, because my mind only knows chaos, I feel like something is wrong. I feel like life is boring. I feel like I'm missing out on something. I feel like I should be, like I said, I should be doing something. And it's just kind of, I mean, obviously that's just not the way it is. It's once you get to the calm mind, it's like you can just live and be happy and enjoy your experience. It doesn't mean that something is wrong. So just throwing that out there, because, obviously I struggled with that too. So any adjustments that I feel like I might make moving forward would fall into just taking more time, I think, like in both the decision making and me living too much in my head. being able to remind myself to slow down is going to be my new goal, I would say, because if I can remind myself to back up and that not everything is urgent and needing to be taken care of right at this moment, then I would have a little bit more space to approach things with a clear mind. So that's going to be my goal for the future, I would say, is like really gaining that patience. But another thing that, and this is a cute little teaser for an episode coming up, we're talking to an expert in the next couple weeks about embracing discomfort. And I think that that's another like good goal, to think that this is more normal and that I'm capable of embracing the things that I might not super like about my experience right now, but I can take anything that I don't love and notate it and improve upon it with time, compared to feeling like I've got to fucking fix it right goddamn now. Otherwise, I'm not going to be happy, or I'm not going to be who I want to be. I think another plan, because Frank had mentioned that he could see when I wasn't listening, see when I was having a conversation in my head, maybe asking him to point it out to me, or like to be like, hey, you good? So that like it can bring me back into reality, because sometimes it does feel like you're hyper locked, fixed in there. And there's nothing wrong with asking for help. There's nothing wrong with the fact that I have this person that I'm with a lot of the time, and he knows me well enough to know when I'm in my head. So being able to not just continue to talk, because that's what he does right now, is just continues to push his point, but to pause when he notices it and say, hey, like, I feel like you're not really listening to me. Is everything going on okay? And a lot of the time I'm probably going to be like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, and start listening again, compared to, continuing on my spiral. So, and that's just because I'm just like, and when what's happening, I'm like not aware. Until I come to the space of awareness is when I can come back out and tune back into real life. So that little bit of help, I think, might be helpful for me. Just reassessing as a whole, because reassessment is really important. You're not going to just get through to your goal the exact way that you pictured it in your head and planned for. You always are going to have to be making adjustments and fixing to what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And reassessing is going to be something that's constant throughout this entire journey. That is something that will last until you die, that you're always going to have to be reassessing how things work with the changes that show up in your life, so that you can control what you can control while being out of control of so much else in our life. I'm sure you have already, because, we're the same. You and I, we're one and the same, sister. But I would encourage you to think about what you yourself have been struggling with and what you've done well recently. Think about for a second right now, while we're just sitting here in this moment. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to write it down. You don't have to end this podcast and go on some mission to fix all the things about you. You can sit right now and think about, what have I been struggling with, and what do I think that I've done really well in regards to my self-improvement and my mental health? Ask yourself, what adjustments are you making in your own journey? And we want to reflect on this, because all of the things that I talked about today, wins and struggles, doesn't mean I'm any far behind in my self-improvement journey that I was. I am where I'm at, and it is what it is. I accept that today is where I'm at with the knowledge that I have, and that's it. It doesn't mean that I'm farther back on my self-improvement journey, or I failed, or I did anything wrong because I have struggles. It just means that this is where we're at, and we're moving from here, and I've healed a lot. And so being able to take those wins and acknowledge those wins and embrace those wins. So again, thinking of yours, and then saying like, okay, these are my struggles. These are some things that I would really like to work on, and noticing these things without judging yourself for them. It's so easy. We're so fucking judgmental of everybody else. Of course we're judging ourselves. And so being able to notice without judging what's happening, and then take action where you see fit, or don't take action if you aren't ready for that, or you're not in that place yet to do so. And that's okay too. Just accepting that this is where you're at in this moment. And just because you fuck things up, just because you don't fuck them up, just because you have whatever going on in your life at this current moment, or because your brain's doing whatever it's doing right now, doesn't mean that you're a piece of shit. It doesn't mean that you're screwing everything up and that you've reverted in your mental health journey. Just because you have a bad day, just because you have a bad time, doesn't mean that you're not making progress. It doesn't mean that you are not better than you were when you first started, when you first came to awareness that you wanted to fix whatever it was that was happening in your mind at the time. And obviously, if you have anything that you're going through, I would love for you guys to share that with me. Send me a message on Instagram, TikTok, send me a text if you have my number, send me an email, whatever. I would love to hear about the things that you're going through, the lessons that you've learned from them, any takeaways. Maybe this episode or any other Wellish episode has helped you on that journey. Any struggles, if you have any questions of how to get through those struggles or would like advice on them, I'm happy to hear, happy to listen. And of course, I'm always happy to share things on the show with your permission as well. So I think all of that, would be really fun. So if you thought of anything today, if anything really came to light for you, and when you sat here and you reflected wins, losses, and what you could do to adjust and move forward, I would love to hear about it. Because you're my pals, you're not just here to listen to me. I'm here to listen to you too. I love you. Just to the main takeaways here that we could have gotten from this episode is essentially just to embrace the challenges and start to see them as opportunities to improve. The things that I feel like I've done well, the things that I've won on, being grateful for those things and knowing those things and adding that into my bucket of me knowing who I am, and me using the same mentality for the challenges and the struggles, being able to say, okay, this is who I am right now. This is what's happening for me. Both the good and the bad are who I am right now. I want to improve on these things. So I will in time work on improving and practicing on these things that I don't love. These are some ways I feel like I can make that happen. But just being able to take it as it is and move on as you see fit at the pace you see fit. It's just really important to celebrate progress. It's important to see and recognize how far we have come, and it helps so that when we do have these inevitable struggles, because you will always have these inevitable challenges and struggles, that we know that it's not end all be all. It doesn't mean that we're the same. It doesn't mean that we've made no progress in our well-being. It just means it's just another day that we're struggling with something, and we're probably handling it better than we would have as a past version of ourselves with less knowledge than we have today. Progress isn't about being perfect. It's about persistence and consistency and doing, not even consistency, it's just about persistence. It's just about the simple trying and being aware that you want to do better for yourself. That's where the progress lies. A lot of the time we can't see the progress because it's happening in our head. Like when we're losing weight, we can see progress because we can see the number on the scale get lower. We can see the image in the mirror change. But when it comes to our brains, we can't do that. We can't see that progress as easily. So having these reflection moments and also knowing that progress is in the persistency, it's not in the end all be all perfect image, is really important. Every step forward, no matter how small it is, brings you closer to that end goal. And honestly, the version of you that isn't going to be the perfect end goal, the version of you that has the knowledge mixed with you and who you are and how you think and how you do things, is the perfect version of that. It's probably better than the end all perfect make-believe goal that you have in your brain, because it's real. You know what I mean? Like it seems like the perfect version would be better, obviously, because it's some perfect version that we have in our heads. But you combined with those things are the genuine, real, beautiful truth compared to the fake reality of what perfection might seem to be at the end goal. We've got to celebrate the wins. We've got to learn from the setbacks and use both of those things to learn and know and remember that growth doesn't come from that end goal, that outcome at the end. It comes from the effort that you put in. You learn things and appreciate things through the process of learning, not because you've done something at the end of it, which is what they're always saying by enjoy the journey. You know what I mean? Like that was a super annoying saying until I actually genuinely understood it. So that's what it means. If that clicks for you, great. If not, it will one day. I was going to say, trust me, I promise, all of the above. Coming up for you guys on Wellish, I had some good feedback on a poll that I did yesterday. It sounds like you guys want to talk about routines and how to do that, which is a really good episode for me because I swear to God, I was washing my face the other day and I was like, this is crazy that I'm able to do this. I remember fully not being able to get myself to do like a morning and a night routine at all. And now I literally cannot function without it. And I literally had the thought of like, I feel like I could teach somebody to do this because I was such like a rat girl before I did this. I'm still a rat girl. Don't you fucking forget it. But you know, I am less so because I have my routines going for me and I'm really good at them and I'm really good at sticking to them. So I feel like I could teach somebody. And then you guys said that that would be something you'd be interested in hearing about on the poll. So I definitely will be talking about that in the near future. We're also going to be talking about perfection paralysis. It's going to be a tongue twisting kind of episode because I'm tongue twisting it now. But just the idea that if you're constantly striving for perfection, that you end up doing absolutely nothing at all. Lastly, the only other thing I have coming up for you, like I said, is an interview with an expert that we're talking to in a couple weeks here about embracing the discomfort. So that sounds like that should be a really exciting episode as well. I do want to say, I don't know what to necessarily tell you guys for these next couple weeks. I do want to be resilient, take the fact that I had hit burnout and had taken a break from Wellish, and I don't want to do that again. That's something that I want to improve on in the future. But in order to make that improvement, I have to reassess and readjust how I was doing things previously. So that said, I know I'm going home for the holidays to Chicago, and I know that when I do that, a lot of the time I'm not super reliable on posting episodes. So the problem is like, I don't know where to cut it off because I did want to talk to you guys about some family dynamic stuff since your girl's got a lot of family dynamic coming up for the holidays. I feel like I'd be able to provide some really good insight on going through that. You know, I deal with a couple narcissists. I deal with divorced parents. I am on my fiance's side. He's got a son. So I deal with, you know, the stepmom vibe of that. I deal with the son's mom and having to switch switch things around so that he can go to both places. So like there's a lot of moving pieces in my family that I feel I could give some really good insight for you guys coming up here for the holidays and how to get through that. So I might do an episode along those lines, but yeah, so we've got a couple things coming up before the end of 2025. I've got 3 episodes to get that in. I don't know if I'm going to be posting for all 3 episodes, like I said, just because we've got stuff coming, just because I'm going to go home and I don't want to kill myself. But if I feel that I'm capable, those are the things that are going to be in the works. And if it's not in December that you get those episodes, they'll be coming for you in January. So that said, that's pretty much it. That's all I have for you guys. If you wouldn't mind, please subscribing to the show. It really helps a lot. Leave a rate, leave a review. I really love to be able to get this message to more people like you and I who, you know, struggle with the idea that they have to be perfect in order to like themselves and like their life. And we all know here that that's just not fucking true. It's not true. So help us spread that message and subscribe and rate and review the show so we can get it out to as many people as possible and just be out here saving lives. Who are we? God complex? Hello. Love that for us. But that's it. I love talking to you guys, and I will talk to you next Monday. Thanks so much. Bye.